Announcement from the White House. The announcement, whatever it is, scheduled for 2 p.m. Eastern. The president's been eyeing Chicago as the next city to benefit from his crackdown on crime, but Democrat city and state leaders, including Governor J.B. Pritzker, object, saying no federal troops on the streets of Chicago. As a desperate search for survivors goes on, the death toll from the devastating Afghanistan earthquake continues to rise and has now topped 1,400. Congress getting back to work today on Capitol Hill following the August break. Lawmakers are especially keen on averting a partial government shutdown at the end of the month. Watching Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 265 points. More details at srnnews.com.
My papa says the Messiah isn't real. He's just a story.
So what do you believe?
From the Salvation Poem Project comes Light of the World.
This is Jesus.
Yeah! Messiah!
A hand-drawn animated film that will inspire the whole family to see Jesus in a whole new light.
He's the King of all kings!
He's nothing.
He is the light of the world.
Light of the World. Opening in theaters this Friday. Rated PG.
Progressive's teen driver discount could lower the cost of insurance for your teenager and save you some money. And then you can still spend money on them. Because just when you think you have a grasp on spending, new sneakers. And then it's money for a school field trip. And of course, spending money. Oh yeah, and a new phone to replace the one they dropped in the toilet. Oh, don't remind me. So just get Progressive's teen driver discount. And then you can continue to spend money on them endlessly. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states and subject to terms and...
Convenience just got an upgrade. Farmers State Bank of Oakley is excited to announce the opening of our brand new ATM along Highway 40, right next to Sonic Drive-In. Whether you're grabbing a snack or on the go, you can quickly access your cash without the detour. It's banking made easy, right where you need it. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
Today, dense fog is possible, particularly in southwest Nebraska along the Kansas-Nebraska border. McCook, Oberlin North, light 5-mile-an-hour west to northwesterly breeze will keep visibility in most areas from getting too poor. In the afternoon, high pressure and drier air will move in from the west, clearing out fog and clouds and allowing for sunshine. Highs expected to reach into the low 80s. Then this evening and overnight, maybe a few sprinkles are possible in northeast Colorado, southwest Nebraska. Drier air and steadier west-southwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour will make the fog and low clouds less likely. Lows will drop into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow on Thursday, a cold front is expected to back into the area from the northeast, potentially triggering showers and thunderstorms on Thursday. Temperatures ahead of the front and high pressure ridge to the west will keep it sunny, warm, and dry, with highs 85 to 90 and west northwesterly and west southwesterly winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour. This meteorologist Chris Tromick, the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Are pests making your home or business uncomfortable? Call Pest Away in Goodland, Kansas, serving all of Northwest Kansas. They provide top-notch pest control services to keep your space safe and pest-free. From ants to rodents, termites to spiders, our expert team is here to help with effective, safe, and affordable pest control solutions. Don't wait. Call Pest Away today at 785-728-7166 for fast, reliable service. Your home or business deserves the best protection.
Summer's ending, school's here, and Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland has the trucks to keep you moving. A 2025 Sierra 3500 Pro, $1,000 purchase allowance or 3.9% for 48 months. A 3500 Denali, $2,000 purchase allowance or 3.9%. Or Sierra 1500 over a $6,000 purchase allowance or 0% APR for 36 months. Make this school year the smoothest ride yet. Visit Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas, or shop online anytime at hurlchev.com. As kids head back to school, it's the perfect time to get your home and yard ready for fall. At Hooper Lumber Ace Hardware in Colby and Goodland, they've got you covered. From all-season ultimate fertilizer and building materials to cozy patio heaters and furniture. Fire up family meals with a Traeger grill or Blackstone griddle and give your home a new look with Benjamin Moore paints. Whatever your project, big or small, Hooper Lumber Ace Hardware is here to help. That's Hooper Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby. Your community, your projects, your ace.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
When you gotta go, but there's nowhere to go, who you gonna call? Topside Portables and Pumping, that's who. Weddings, job sites, farm parties, they've got clean, reliable porta potties that don't stink, literally. And if your septic tank smells worse than last year's chili cook-off, they'll pump it out fast. No mess, no fuss. Family owned, Heartland values, always ready. Call 785-728-8089. That's 728-8089. Topside Portables and Pumping. When duty calls, they answer.
When you work hard, make sure you have a service that works hard for you. With reliable coverage and the latest devices, you can go farther with Nextech Wireless. Right now, get an iPhone 16 Pro and an Apple Watch 10 on us. That's right, on us. Nextech Wireless, connecting Kansans.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
If you want to win in football, it all starts up front. Mass kicks ass.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Covering it all from the preps.
Up ahead to Blair Lennon. Lennon, the crossover back to Cure. Hello, boom! A two-handed tomahawk flush.
To the pros.
Shotgun snap to Nix. Protection is good. Bold loads it up. He's got it. A receiver there. Franklin makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Denver.
The Blitz is presented by Earl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. Along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work. Daniels in the gun. Thompson on his left tip. Play action drop back. Deep drop. Deep ball down the right sideline. He's got Henderson at the 10, at the 5. Touchdown, Kansas. Touchdown, Emmanuel Henderson. He went for the home run and knocked it out of the park.
Dropping, scanning, looking. Steps up in the pocket. Now decides to run. Cuts off to his right. To the end zone. Touchdown. Touchdown, Colorado.
Avery with the football here. Two-step drop. Looking, throwing, has his man. Touchdown. Joe Jackson, left corner. The Wildcats score with 42 seconds to go and lead 37-35.
And good Tuesday morning, everybody. Back from a long Labor Day weekend. Hope everyone had a chance to enjoy it in some sort of capacity and is ready to dive into the school year and the fall. I mean, even though it's not fall yet, I understand we still got a few weeks until it's officially fall, but hope everyone is ready to dive back into what is truly the school year getting ramped up here starting today. But glad you're with us here on the Morning Blitz, no matter which way you are listening. Via Goodland's Rock at 102.5 or NWKSradio.net, or also, of course, online and the at NWKSradio.net or Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Appreciate everybody chiming in on today's program, where we will get into an extended weekend edition of Winners and Losers, Weekend Winners and Losers. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. We will continue to preview some area high school football teams with Rollins County head football coach Aaron Schromick going to join us coming up here in just a little bit. We will also be discussing some volleyball and things of that sort in the leftovers coming up at the back end of the show. So plenty of things to get to here on today's program. Very beautiful morning out there. 55 and sunny outside the studios here in Goodland. Just a nice crispness in the air. Love that crispness that we're feeling right there. Going to be 82 today for the temperature. And going to be warmer middle part of this week. 82 today, 86 tomorrow, 88 on Thursday, before a big jump down of about 15 to 16 degrees. Temperatures in the low 70s and mid 70s for Friday and the upcoming weekend. So going to be, like I said, a little hot. I don't want to say hot. I mean, it's going to be, I would say, your typical weather. I mean, that's the thing. Like this past weekend, it's Labor Day weekend. Some people try to get out and go experience some things outside. Weather was in some ways great, a little bit cooler. In other ways, if you want to be out on the water, if you're one of those going to go fishing, things like that, might be a little bit more challenging with the cooler temperatures that were out at times this weekend. But still, going to be some really nice weather here this week. It looks like warmer here for the next 3 days, and then cooler for the weekend and ahead. Although I do see, looking way ahead in the forecast, a week from this Thursday, temperatures might skyrocket back up into the 90s. But once again, that's a long ways away. So not going to worry about that too much here. As always, the F&B Bank text line is open each and every show at 785-899-2222. If you'd like to be part of the Morning Blitz, would love to hear from you. Get your thoughts and comments throughout the program. If you've got weekend winners and losers, would love to hear from you on that. So with that, let's dive in and get this show rolling. Let's go with our weekend winners and losers.
There are two kinds of people in this world.
There's winners and there's losers.
Which ones were which this past weekend?
I want winners. Loser? You're a loser.
It's the weekend's winners and losers on the Morning Blitz.
Want to be a winner, be a winner.
So an extended weekend edition of Weekend Winners and Losers. Going to touch on a lot of college football because why not? It was just last night capped off what was a 5 consecutive days of college football, week number 1 in the books. And believe it or not, we'll be at week 10 or 13 before the blink of an eye. I can guarantee you that's how the football season always seems to roll. We'll be there before we know it. But going to certainly talk a lot of that and even start with my first winner. First winner of the weekend. There was not a bigger winner of the weekend, probably, than Tommy Castellanos and Florida State football. I mean, you could put Mike Norvell in there, head coach for Florida State. You could put in whoever you wanted to that had to deal with the Florida State football program. They were the biggest winners of the weekend. To give it some context, Florida State last year was 2-10, just a year after going unbeaten going into the bowl season, and got left out of the college football playoff due to their quarterback, Jordan Travis, getting injured. Very debatable topic, but that's what happened. They get left out despite being unbeaten, and they end up going 2-10 the next year with a rebuilt team, have a horrible year, go back and completely reshuffle the cards again here for 2025, and just absolutely hit a grand slam in game number 1 as they roll, and I do mean roll, Alabama 31-7 on Saturday afternoon. Tommy Castellanos, the reason I bring his name up all off season long, Tommy Castellanos is the Florida State quarterback. He transferred in from Boston College. All off season, he talked about how Nick Saban is not there to save Alabama anymore. He says, we're going to beat them. He talked all this time about how they were going to beat them, how they were in, and just completely with, based upon what Alabama being a 6-time national champ underneath Nick Saban, Alabama having some of the best recruiting classes and having the great success, and Florida State coming off a 2-win season. What in the world are we bragging this up for if you're Florida State and their quarterback? And I'm sure the coaches and I'm sure some of the fans were like, gosh, don't do this to us. They're just going to come in and wipe the floor with us. Now, Tommy Castellanos instead goes out there and leads a charge into Alabama, and they just absolutely roll them, like I said, 31-17. Tommy Castellanos is not a big guy. 5'11", just kind of reminds me of a Kyler Murray. Small but quick, decently accurate. He went 9 of 14 for 152 yards passing. He also ran 16 times for 78 yards and a touchdown. He had a couple of tough runs in there as well. Florida State whooped Alabama on both sides of the ball pretty much the entire contest. And so the biggest winner of the weekend is Tommy Castellanos, Mike Norvell, and Florida State. bouncing back from what looks to be was a horrific 2-10 season, backing up all that offseason talk that Castellanos put out there in a dominant big performance against Alabama. There's not a bigger winner of this past weekend in no way, shape, or form. They were just unbelievable. They were one of the I'd say probably one of the 4 programs that had probably the bigger wins of this past weekend. You had LSU beating Clemson in Clemson, which was huge. LSU getting their first win underneath Brian Kelly in a season opening game. For the previous 3 years, they had started 0-1, but they get it done against Clemson with the big win on Saturday night. Ohio State gets a big win despite they coming off a national championship, losing some key pieces, including quarterback Will Howard. They bring in Julian Sand. They still have a lot of great pieces too, by the way. But they take care of Arch Manning in Texas and make a statement win. And I thought Miami had a pretty big statement win with the win over Notre Dame. I thought it was a very evenly matched game, but Miami just looked super talented. I mean, the playmakers on the outside and in the backfield, and particularly on defense, the pass rush, the coverage, it was really impressive. Now, Notre Dame fought their guts out, and I'll give them credit there, but I thought Notre Dame looked extremely talented in their 27-24 win. Miami looked extremely talented over Notre Dame, 27-24. Just looked super, super talented this past week. And I was very impressed with the U as my first couple of my winners of the weekend. Another winner of the weekend, how about Coach Lee Corso in his final broadcast or telecast of being on Goodland game day, on College game day. He had his final picks that he made. He won a perfect 6-0. He was perfect. He picked Ohio State. He picked Miami. He picked LSU. He picked Florida State, his alma mater. He picked a lot of these big time games. He won a perfect 6-0 in some of the big games. And it was a great capper to what was a remarkable career for him, and closing the chapter on a lot of us college football, a lot of us college football fans like myself. My good buddy from back in high school texts me, goes, boy, an era for us is ending today. And he's right. I didn't think about it, but it's true. I mean, Lee Corso has been a big part of our lives growing up, watching college game day on Saturday mornings. He was there with the great expertise early on, and then of course the donning of the headgear. And then as things went on after a stroke, it wasn't always the same. Lee struggled, and you could tell that it was probably time for him to move on into other things and not be on the road doing this all the time. But for him to get all the big games, the perfect 6 picks right, was a great culmination. For him to don the Buckeye head for the last time when the first time he ever did it was an Ohio State game, and he donned that. Very cool capping to this. So very, very neat to see Lee Corso go out a perfect 6-0. By the way, a fun fact: if you had bet $100 and made the picks like Lee Corso did on those 6 games, you would have made over $10,000. Would have been a nice little deal. If you would have hit that 6-game parlay, putting on $100 on it, would have made just over $10K. That would have been a pretty nice little investment right there. Pretty darn sweet. So Lee Corso, another winner of the weekend, joining Florida State football quarterback Tommy Castellanos and head coach Mike Norvell. Those were my winners of this past weekend. I got plenty of losers this weekend. I'm going to start with a few quicker ones before I dive into a bigger one, but kind of capping off of what happened with Florida State and Alabama. I mean, there's probably not too many bigger losers this weekend than Kalen DeBoer. DeBoer, the Alabama head football coach, is squarely on the hot seat after week 1. And once again, I'm not sitting here saying that he deserves this, but it's true. He's on the hot seat here after week 1. You go out and you get thumped by Florida State in the season opener after already, last year you got thumped by Michigan in the bowl game, and you've only got to 9 wins, which is nowhere good enough for a program like Alabama. He's squarely on the hot seat. Squarely is. The biggest thing that probably was lacking, I thought, from that game versus Alabama was the fact that they lacked 2 things that made Alabama very tough to beat in the previous regime underneath Nick Saban. Underneath Nick Saban, they played with great tenacity, great energy, great physicality. Coach Saban knew how to get those guys to play like that. And right now, at least judging off of this first game of this year, and we still have a lot of season left, and he could certainly correct the ship and go back in the right direction. But it just looks like as if Coach DeBoer is not able to get those out of these guys at this point in time. Now, part of the fact is they're kind of changing philosophies. You know, underneath Nick Saban, they were kind of you wanted to be a little bit more of a physical football team. They would run the ball a little bit more than what Alabama's going to do now. They're more of a pass team. They threw it 43 times in this loss. And first-time starter Ty Simpson just had 20 incompletions. Did have a couple touchdowns, but 20 incompletions. But I don't know. The physicality of running the football, running tough, the tackling was poor. And I think, you know, tackling overall to an extent is poor in today's college football because they just don't allow a lot of time to practice it. I think that's part of it. But Kalen DeBoer squarely on the hot seat. And it's funny to hear people talk about how there's people be calling for his head this week on local radio. Fine, go ahead. If I'm Kalen DeBoer, even though that may be true, I'm not going to worry about it. You want to know why? Because even if you do want to fire me, Alabama has to come up with $70 million. $70 million. There is not any way in a program like Alabama, or yes, they are highly successful, but they don't have a lot of big boosters. No, there's not a lot of big boosters in the state of Alabama. And to come up with that kind of coin is going to be extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And so Kalen DeBoer, even if, and let's just say they did come up with it, you get paid $70 million. I'm fine. Don't have to work ever again if I don't want to. I'm sure DeBoer would. He's a phenomenal football coach, but no doubt he's lose the weekend. He's going to have to, and I'm sure he already, he's got the headphones on. He don't want to be hearing anything, anything from the media this week because you're going to be the square talking point of it all, obviously. And I feel bad for Kalen DeBoer. I think he still needs some more time, but I admit it was not a good look on Saturday when his team just got completely blown up by Florida State. And who knows? Maybe Florida State is going to be the national champion this year. That's one thing. We just don't know. We're only 1 week in, but we're learning more each and every week. But Kalen DeBoer, my first loser of the weekend. Arch Manning, quarterback for Texas, a loser of the weekend. Not because he lost the game, not because maybe he didn't look the best in their 14-7 loss to Texas. I mean, he was 17 of 30 for 170 yards, a touchdown, a pick. The problem was Arch Manning was just put in a tough position. He carries a big last name of the first family of football, with the Manning family there. He's been touted as this great quarterback despite really not playing very much. It's tough. It's tough. And anything other than just looking like his uncles out there on the football field was probably going to be a disappointment. And it looked like as if Texas had a game plan that was very, very vanilla is the word that has been used, and I would agree with it. They ran the football a lot and pretty successfully. I mean, 166 yards is pretty good, almost over 4.5 yards a carry. That's pretty darn good. I have a feeling Arch Manning's going to figure things out, but he took a lot of stuff this weekend because he just didn't look very good. And once again, it's still early. It's very, very early. I feel like he's going to improve, but at the same time, maybe he's not as good as his uncles. Maybe he's not as good as his grandfather. That's okay. He can still be a pretty good quarterback. He doesn't have to be a college football Hall of Famer or an NFL Hall of Famer. Maybe he will turn out being that way, but it certainly didn't look like that in game number 1 with Arch Manning, a loser of the weekend. And my final loser of the weekend, kind of a bigger picture one, and it got a little bit better last night and late Saturday night. It got a little bit better, but initially it was not a very good weekend for the Big 12 conference, particularly on Friday. They lost some pretty big non-con games. Now, I don't mean as in they were like national games that people are going to tune in and the world was going to be watching. I mean, some cases, but there were some games that were pretty big to the Big 12, and I'll explain that here in a second. Colorado lost to Georgia Tech, losing late in that game. It was a game kind of like I thought. I thought, Georgia Tech would run the ball a lot, and they would kind of break through at the end and get the win. That's what happened. Colorado proved to me that their offense is nowhere near the same type of explosiveness that they were underneath Shadur. Not a surprise, but that was the case we saw there. But Colorado loses to Georgia Tech. That was on Friday. Also on Friday, Baylor losing to Auburn in a high-scoring affair, but Baylor considered one of the top teams in the Big 12 this year, one of the top 2 or 3. Lost to Auburn, an SEC team that I don't really know what to expect out of them this year. I still don't think they're going to be that great in the SEC, so I kind of look at it as being a tough loss for Baylor in the Big 12 there. Kansas State on Saturday did not look good against North Dakota. Once again, I kind of said that earlier. I said, you watch out. This second week game is going to be tough. I know listener Drew chimed in on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream saying, boy, you look out. Kansas State's going to have a tough one with North Dakota State. He was wrong on the team, but he was right on the game. It was a tough one for North Dakota, whether it was, trying to get your feet back underneath you after being, getting that jet lag and stuff. They just did not look great. Kansas State has not really looked that awesome through for the first 2 games this season. But K-State did not look great against North Dakota. They did not look good at all. Give credit to North Dakota. Those kids played their guts out. Their offense was really good with a first-year starter. Their defense played physical. I was impressed with North Dakota. K-State just did not look very, very good, but found a way to pull it out in the end. Still not a great look. Cincinnati lost to Nebraska on Thursday night. That didn't help the Big 12 there, although it was kind of expected. So there were some losses for the conference, and I'll get to that in just a second here. And then Saturday night, and then into Monday, a little bit of a bounce back for the Big 12. UCLA gets Utah gets a really nice dominant win over UCLA in the Big 10. Nice win there. TCU just hammers North Carolina last night. I mean, hammers. They had the best performance of any Big 12 team, I thought, this past weekend. TCU looked great. Offensively, moving the ball up and down the field. Defensively, with not 1 but 2 turnovers, returned for touchdowns, a scoop and score, and a pick 6. The TCU looked like the best team of all of them. Now, once again, North Carolina, how much weight are we going to put on them? I don't know. We don't know much about them yet. We just know that Bill Belichick's the head coach, and how good are they going to be when the season comes in? We have no clue. It didn't look great in game number 1. Maybe they're going to be better. But TCU looked really good if you're just basing it off a 1-week sample size. So they kind of salvaged the weekend. But here's my reason why I think the Big 12 Conference is a loser of the weekend. Most of the time throughout the course of a college football season, you get one big non-conference game, one big one, whether it's Colorado, Georgia Tech, or coming, Kansas State gets, well, what would have been Arizona in this case. That doesn't matter. KU gets Missouri is a better example. You get you usually schedule one big non-conference game against another Power 4 conference foe. Yeah, you have a couple of bye games there where you pay the team to come up here, come to your place and get their butt whooped. But then you go and you actually play a challenging game on the road or at home against an SEC team or an ACC team or something along those lines. You play those games. And those are the games where you have to, in the case of the Big 12, in this case, have to win because it helps change the perception of your league. If you don't win those games, it becomes very hard come playoff selection time, where the committee's like, well, they didn't look good against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech ended up being a 500 team. Colorado shouldn't be in there. Baylor had a really good regular season in the Big 12, but they lost to Auburn by a couple scores. That doesn't look good. And Auburn finished in the middle of the pack of the SEC. I know it's early, and I totally get that. And there's still plenty of time to salvage it. But in the case of conferences like the Big 12 and the ACC, where you are looking up at the Big 10 and the SEC already when the season begins, you have to win some of these games, and preferably all of them or majority of them, to give your conference the look that you're a little bit better than what you are. Because after you lose these games, even though you play each other, it probably really doesn't help a whole lot. You need to win some of these non-conference games, these big non-conference games, to put yourself in a position to possibly steal bids in the college football playoff. By winning these games, you get yourself in business because you're like, well, heck, if let's just talk about hypothetical. Colorado beat Georgia Tech. Well, that's a nice win against an ACC opponent. Baylor beat Auburn. That's an SEC team that went, got to 8 wins in the SEC. That's a really nice win for Baylor. However you want to throw it out there. I mean, like I said, UCLA or Utah beating UCLA. Oh, it's a Big 10 team. I don't know what UCLA's got to have this year, but I mean, there are opportunities to make your conference look a little bit better. And the more you win these type of games, these non-con matchups against other Power 5 teams, it puts you in a better spot to be in a better position to get bids in the college football playoff. And the Big 12 really didn't help itself a whole lot this past weekend. Now, will it impact it a lot at the end of the year? I don't know, but it could, and we will find out. So there you go. Loser of the weekend, the Big 12 conference to an extent. So once again, going back, weekend winners and losers. Winners, well, Florida State, Tommy Castellanos, Mike Norvell, everyone put in there. They were just phenomenal in their win against Baylor and a humongous win for their program this year. Lee Corso, winner of the weekend, going a perfect 6-0 in his final show on picks, which is great. And then losers of the weekend, Alabama football coach Kalen DeBoer, Texas quarterback Arch Manning, and the Big 12 conference, a loser of the weekend. Once again, missing an opportunity to win some big games in the non-conference slate. There's still time, though. There's still time. Kansas could get Missouri. There's other games coming up, but a tough first step in week number 1 of the college football season for the Big 12. All right, let's take a break. When we return, we are going to be visiting with Rollins County head football coach Aaron Schromick, talking about his Buffalo squad ahead of the 2025 season. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Tuesday.
Summer's ending, school's here, and Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland has the trucks to keep you moving. A 2025 Sierra 3500 Pro, $1,000 purchase allowance or 3.9% for 48 months. A 3500 Denali, $2,000 purchase allowance or 3.9%. Or Sierra 1500 over a $6,000 purchase allowance or 0% APR for 36 months. Make this school year the smoothest ride yet. Visit Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas, or shop online anytime at hurlchev.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Tom Saluto with the Anderson Trade Group with your morning market report on September the 2nd. These corn is set to open down 3 at 417, March down 2 at 435, and May corn down 2 at 445. November soybeans down 13 at 1041, January soybeans down 12.5 at 1059, and March soybeans down 12 at 1075. Kansas City hard red winter wheat, December was down 9.5 at 510, March set to open down 10 at 530, and May down 10 at 545. The Dow Jones is set to open down 450 points at 45,151, S&P down 80 points at 6,394, NASDAQ down 375 points at 23,092, gold is up 31 points at 3,547, crude oil slightly up at 64.65 a barrel. If you're out in the Colorado area and have any grain to market or risk management questions, please call John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or you can call the Overland Park office, myself, Tom Saluto, Jerry Ball, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000. Thank you.
Farmers and ranchers, are you looking to sell your equipment at auction for zero fees and zero commissions? Well, then you need to check out Hayden Outdoors' new online equipment auction platform. You can list your equipment in our monthly online auctions using our easy-to-use platform, and you don't pay any fees or commissions. Visit HaydenOutdoors.com to learn more. That's HaydenOutdoors.com.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing because
Farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, and cleaner American fuel. This message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
No one rambles on better than Ross Volkmer.
All you do is talk on
the Morning Blitz.
Don't forget, coming up this weekend on Saturday in St. Francis, going to be the concert in the park featuring Colorado's tribute to the Eagles. Should be a great, great time there. The Long Run is what they're known as. So that will get going at around 6 o'clock Central Time with special guest Janelle plays, and then the Long Run follows at 8 o'clock there in the band shell. So invite people to go up to St. Francis for the concert in the park. That's this Saturday. All right, let's continue our conversation with area high school football coaches, kind of previewing the upcoming 2025 season. We're pleased to welcome into the program Aaron Schromick, head coach of the Rollins County Buffaloes. Coach, good morning. How are we doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, you bet, Coach. How was the summer for you? Did you get a chance to relax with the family? I know you did a lot of things, of course, with 8-man all-star games and stuff like that. But did you get a chance to relax or anything like that? Get away for a little bit?
Yeah, we tried to. When doing the 8-man all-star week, kind of takes a little, kind of vacation time away. But we did, and we're able to get away and enjoy the summer for the most part. But we've got weights, throughout the week, so we get up nice and early and get the kids up there to work out, and then we try to take some family time later in the day or on weekends.
What's it like having one less body in the household here as you start this school year?
It's definitely different. Ryan was my youngest, and so I have 4 kids, and so he's gone off to school, and then we're definitely adjusting to that. My wife's the principal at the grade school here in Atwood, so definitely some adjustments.
A lot quieter in the household, I'm sure. It got quieter each with every kid being gone, but I'm sure now it's very quiet.
it sure did. But once football season starts and school starts back up, we stay plenty busy. So there's a lot to do yet. So we're keep our minds off of that until we realize we're home with no kids. So.
Yep, absolutely. Aaron Schromick is our guest, Rollins County High School head football coach, coming off a 7-3 season last year. Coach, when you look back at last year, as you reflect a little bit, what stood out to you about that season in 2024?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those seasons, obviously, with my son being a senior, and then just we felt like to look back on, you'd always think about it, and then you think you always, as most coaches do, heck, I think of games from 20 years ago that wished we would have done something a little different. But all in all, we had a good season. We lost. I think the teams we lost to were a combined record of 35-2, if I remember. Dighton was a 1-loss team. South Central was a 1-loss team. Of course, we know what Hoxie did. So all in all, we felt like we had a good season. We felt like maybe we had a little bit more injuries kind of caught up to us there late in the season. And then, everybody got to play on that Friday mud game, kind of had some extra stuff to battle with. But, really the kids should definitely proud of themselves for what they accomplished, last season. And then especially the guys coming back to, what they should be able to look forward to.
Last year, as you mentioned, you had your son, Ryan, and of course you had another great player in Dorian Colwell. Those guys were fantastic pieces. Those guys are both now graduated and moved on. But at the same time, those were kind of your only 2 big upperclassmen that were contributors last year. So there were a lot of guys that are going to be now juniors or big-time senior class here that you have to feel good. It's not like the cupboard was left completely bare here coming into 2025.
No, yeah, losing those 2 guys, I think, they had the bulk of our production on offense, and we're good defensive players. I think we rushed for over 3,000 yards, and they were the bulk of that. And, I think we had 4 seniors last year that really, 3 that really contributed and 4 that saw some starting time. And then, so no, I mean, we lost some production in the backfield, but we've got really looking forward. We got a lot of experience coming back when I kind of, think coming into the season. And then before I came on today, really looking at it, we've got 7 guys that by the end of the season, because of injuries, were starters that are actually returning this season, along with, some other depth with some sophomores that are going to be stepping up into big roles and like that. So, we've got 8 seniors on the roster. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. Yeah, we just, we got to figure out some different things, maybe offensively, we might have to look a little bit different, but I think we've got what it takes to build on the success of our last 3 seasons that we've put together.
As a coaching staff, how much do you know, about game action and stuff? You have, of course, a very experienced roster when you look at a lot of seniors and upperclassmen, but maybe those guys didn't play a lot, like you said, last year due to injuries or whatever. So how much confidence do you have in those guys, even though they maybe haven't have a ton of a game experience coming into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, different types of confidence. I mean, some of them really, saw some good playing time. We've got some all-league players returning. It's different, we've got some in different positions. So it is it takes a little time to really try to gear up for that first game and practice what we think we need to be able to accomplish, and then, go forward like that. I mean, we've probably got, I don't know, depth wise, I mean, maybe, I don't know, we got to find that top end 2 or 3 guys who we can really rely on, but depth wise, we're probably sitting about as strong as we have been for a little while. So we got a lot of guys that are going to get opportunities, and we'll just have to see what they can do.
Once again, we are visiting with Aaron Schromick, Rollins County High School head football coach, joining us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline here on this Tuesday morning. You said something a little bit ago that I always find fascinating about particularly high school football, because you have to take the players that you have and make them into the best position that you can be. But you talked about, we may have to look a little bit different offensive, might have to make some things. As a coach, how much do you enjoy that, kind of the creativity of it, and putting pieces in the right spot to have success each and every year based upon what you have on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of enjoy it. I mean, I know there's different ways to do it. We try to, keep the scheme similar, but try to adapt to the players as we need to, because like I said, they're gone, and, we don't necessarily recruit certain types of players. We get what we have, and then we have to just adjust to it as as we need to. But yeah, no, it's enjoyable. Sometimes you think, man, I wish I could just do the same thing every year and not have to rebuild my play card, during the summer as we go into the first week of the season. But I mean, I think if you enjoy it, you take pride in that, and you try to see what you can come up with.
Everyone will talk about, skill position guys, but what about the guys in the trenches, those 3 get down linemen or the tight ends mixed in there? How do you feel like you're going to be in the trenches this year?
I feel like that, that needs to be our strength. That's where our most experience is coming back. Those 3 down linemen and the tight end positions. We are run heavy, and, we probably most likely still will be. But yes, that's our strength coming in season, and it needs to continue to be that way, even though we still need to see a lot of improvement up there. But we've got, our center and both guards were all 3 starters last year, and one of our tight ends. So, and then, yes, that's got to be our strength.
And also at the same time, talk about strength, the offensive line. Defensively last year, you guys were very good. You guys had some multiple games where you held opponents, under 30, heck, even under 20 points at times. And that's a hard thing to do in 8-man football. How do you feel like that defense is going to look this year?
I think we should be pretty good. I mean, we've got, some pretty good down linemen coming back, both linebackers. We're going to look a little bit different at the 2 corner positions. we started 2 seniors at the corner positions, and then but yeah, we expect to be pretty solid there. We'll try to play whistle to whistle and see what we can do.
Aaron Trauma continue to be our guest here on the Morning Blitz. How do you feel like these first couple weeks have gone for practice as you get set to kick off the season here on Friday?
Yeah, I feel like they've been pretty good. That first week is always kind of an interesting one. I'm kind of always kind of ready to get into the first week, but then you're ready to also get past it. There's a lot of paperwork, getting all the kids' stuff turned in, pictures, and just little injuries that pop up early and stuff. So it's always kind of, like I said, it's fun to get ready to start, but then you like getting week 1 over, and then week 2. By the end of week 2, you're kind of tired of just seeing each other every day and practicing against the same guys. We do our own scrimmage, and we don't participate in the jamboree. I'm maybe a little old school, I'd like to try to, probably a little old school, stay amongst ourselves, especially if we have enough kids, and then we get into game week, and it's still a little bit different because you aren't coming off of a game, but we really try to get the technique down, a lot of basics, and then throw as much at them as we can, and then kind of scale it back to what we think we want to do week 1.
Yeah, is this week mostly focused on, getting yourself and your offense in those fine-tuned positions, and of course defensively, getting yourself in the best position against what the opposition is going to have? I'm guessing more kind of like a scout week to an extent.
Yeah, really it is. We really try to, over the weekend after the Friday night scrimmage that we have, and then we say, okay, now what do we want to do to try to compete as best we can this week? It's still, but with new guys coming in and moving people around, there's still a lot of, it's like I told the kids after this, our scrimmage, probably wasn't, we got all kinds of stuff we can still work on, but, I don't think there's probably been any coach that comes out of the first Friday scrimmage thinking, oh man, we're ready to beat anybody. So even though we want to, but, we're not, you don't want to be there quite yet. So.
If you had to kind of give your grade, or how did you feel coming out of that first scrimmage overall on Friday?
Well, when you're watching the scrimmage, coaching it you usually are seeing all the stuff, but then you get to watching film, I'd say we're probably, honestly, if I'm being honest, we're probably at about a B-. So, which is okay.
Yep.
Which is okay, because then we got a lot of upside to work through. So,
Aaron Schromick, our guest here on the Morning Blitz. We'll get you out of here on this one, Coach. Looking ahead, it's a schedule once again this year. What do you think of this schedule ahead here in 2025?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One, we open with Dighton, which is a league rival school. I think it's been us or them, taking the first in the league the last several years. They, I don't know what to expect. They have such a solid program, such a solid coach. I know they lost a lot of guys, but there's no way we're taking them lightly. I mean, I think I told the kids the other way, we've lost 8 games in 3 years, and 2 of them are to Dighton. So we're definitely got to be ready to show up this week 1. And then we go to, Tribune. They're kind of rebuilding what they're doing there. Then we go into 2, Trigo. I think I'm expecting them to be a very good team this year, and they've been a good team last 2 years. We played in the playoffs before. So, that's still a non-district game. Then we open up district against Hill City. I think they're pretty heavy seniors. Our district, actually, with us, St. Francis, Hill City, we got pretty heavy senior teams. And then you throw in Oberlin, who's got some really good players on that team. And then, obviously Hoxie's in there, and return state champion. So they're gonna always get after it.
No,
so,
absolutely.
And, so yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting schedule. Like you said, you've got some teams that maybe were down a little bit the previous years that are going to be on their way up, like a St. Francis, for example. So yeah, it'll be a very interesting slate for you guys. I got one more actually for I wanted to ask your thoughts because you're there probably every day or see it. How's the progress of the new school and the building of all that coming together? It's quite a big project they're putting together up there in Atwood.
It is, we got all that stuff passed and going, and they got started early this summer, with some groundwork and some trying to get things going, and it's been a little slowed this summer for different reasons. So it's happening. It's just everybody wants to see more, but I think our school board and our administration are they're doing the best job that they can with what they've been dealt. So definitely looking forward to seeing that progress.
Well, it may be a year or two, but I think it's gonna be really nice when it's all said and done. That's for sure. It's gonna be really nice.
Absolutely.
He is Aaron Schromick, Rollins County head football coach. Aaron, it's always great for you to join the program. Thank you so much for taking some time. Best of luck here as you open up this weekend, this Friday at home against Dighton.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Once again, great stuff there from Aaron Schromick. He's got him. That's the thing. I mean, he's got himself a football team this year that has got experience where it matters most, in the trenches. And no matter what, but to an extent, you can put a lot of decent pieces behind that. And if you can block for them, they're going to be able to find holes. I think we're going to see Rollins kind of another pretty good season. Last year going 7-3. This year could be another really successful season for the Buffaloes. We'll wait and find out. But once again, they got a challenging game opening up at home up there in Massacre Canyon against the Dighton Hornets here on Friday. Should be an interesting football game. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will wrap up the show with the leftovers. That's next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz.
The Black and Gold are back, and you can catch the
Thanks again to Coach Aaron Schromick for joining the program. Great to visit with him, catch up what's going on with Rollins County Buffalo football. Only a couple more schools we'll get to here this week as we get set to kick off the high school football season this Friday. Looking forward to our, at least in my perspective, first broadcast here of the fall of 2025. As the Goodland Cowboys will take on the Ray Eagles. Look forward to getting to that here on Friday evening. Getting to some volleyball here in the leftovers. An interesting weekend for Colby Community College volleyball. The third-ranked Lady Trojans came off a dominant weekend down in Texas. And this weekend, a little bit more challenging. In fact, they lost their first matches of the season as they were swept by fellow top 10 opponent Northeastern Junior College at what was the uniquely named Marriott Spring Hill Suites Cheyenne Invite up there in Cheyenne, Wyoming. But they were swept by Northeastern and then swept by Laramie County, as far as I know, an unranked program on Friday. So they get swept and they get swept. On Friday, they bounce back, though, on Saturday with a pair of sweeps of Central Arizona College and Casper College. And so with the non-con play, at least with their first little, I want to say, blurb of non-conference play, they go what is 6-2. And they will open up conference play here on Wednesday. Tomorrow, they will do it at home. It is their home opener against Garden City. So Lady Trojans 6-2, once again with their first home match coming up here tomorrow night. Some other high school volleyball. Just real quick, I noticed this high school volleyball, a tough start for Colby High School. They started the season this past weekend at the Norton tournament. They went 0-5, had a tough showing, did the Lady Eagles. But there is plenty more high school volleyball on tap for today. You have a triangular in Weskin featuring Greeley County and Syracuse. Colby's going to be at a quad down in Lakin tonight. Shiloh has a triangular with Northern Valley and Wheatland Grinnell. Oakley is going to Trigo. St. Francis will host Goodland. Golden Plains and Tri-Plains Bruce are in Ness City for a quad with Logan Palco. Rollins County has a quad with Dighton and Decatur Community. Those happening all at Colby High School. That's one thing about if Rollins County has a home event, it looks like for mostly for basketball or volleyball, any indoor type of thing that's going to be played, it looks like in Colby or Oberlin to an extent. That's one thing I noticed about the schedule, and this one is played at the Colby High School, it looks like, for Rollins County volleyball with their matches today. That Colby quad, it's in Lakin, but I believe they're taking on Ulysses, Hugoton, and Holcomb, kind of like a GWAC deal there in Lakin. I believe that's how that's going. At least that's how the schedule came out. So that's some volleyball today. You've got some tennis. Colby girls tennis getting their season away. They are competing over in Phillipsburg today. And also, it is the Hayes High Golf Invitational today, which is where the Goodland Cowgirls and the Rollins County girls golf team get their, I believe this is the first season. I could be wrong, and I certainly could be. I believe this is the first season that Rollins County has a complete girls golf team. I know they had one of the better girls golfers in all of Northwest Kansas the last couple of years, but she played, I think she only, it was by herself, I think. And but I think they have a team this year. It is Rollins County girls golf. And they, along with Goodland, who would be competing at the Hugoton tournament today, but that was moved to Elkhart because there's work being done on the Hugoton golf course. So Goodland decided to get out of that and go play at the Hayes High Invitational, and that'll certainly be a little bit of a jump up in competition, but I think the Cowgirls are ready for it. I mean, the expectations are very high for Goodland Cowgirl golf. Very, very high. It almost seems like it's a state championship or bust. They've got three of the better golfers in 321A, in Tori Jones, Allie, and Natalie Cure. They are on a mission to do some great things this year after an unbeaten season last year and a third-place finish as a team at state last season. So I actually visited with Coach Goods and the girls, and also with Goodland Volleyball opening up their season at St. Francis. Visited with some girls there and Coach Brumbaugh. I thought I said Coach Bierman, but Coach Brumbaugh. About the upcoming season. Those are going to be available today on NWKS Radio on SoundCloud. Listen to those interviews, hear what the girls had to say, what the coaches had to say. Goodland Cowgirl Volleyball feeling confident going into the 2025 season, despite what was a very tough 2024. They feel like the late season momentum that they had, that they won a few matches there at the end, and then carried that through the summer, and now are feeling very good about themselves going into the season as it gets going today up in St. Francis. So good luck to all of your athletes as we kick off what is a very busy fall sports season. Well, we kicked it off really last Friday, but we really get going even more here today.
High drive, deep left, grand slam, and back lifts his ball deep to right. How about a walk-off Brady? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes swings it. It's there. Hardman, jackpot, Kansas City.
So a cool story that I came across here this past week, and just kind of came across it, forgotten about it, but former Kansas State lineman and former Brewster High School graduate Brock Wolf, I saw, was starting for the University of South Dakota on the offensive line up in the Iowa State game this weekend. Now, Iowa State took it to South Dakota, but talk about a cool story. Brock Wolf, 8-man football, then 6-man football for Brewster, now a starter at a Division I FCS football program. He was on K-State, a kind of a gray shirt type of deal, but because of the roster limits, was let go. He's now at South Dakota and starting on the offensive line. From what I saw from Sports in Kansas, he becomes the first ever 6-man football player from the state of Kansas to play on a Division I football team. Pretty darn cool. Congratulations to Brock Wolf, a now starter on the O-line for the South Dakota Yotes. So, neat story. All right, that does it for our Tuesday edition of the Morning Blitz. We're back again tomorrow on a Wednesday. Hope you tune in and join us then. It's been the Blitz. Have a great day.
Classic rock plays here. This is Rocket 102.5 KKC.